It is my honor to introduce Chief Fred Robbins from Alkali.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wait, and Esket'emc Chief. Hello and good day. I would first like to thank you all for taking the time to hear me. Mayor, thank you very much. I'm here today to bring forward an opportunity of reconciliation, as well as providing a new approach for bringing First Nations leaders and municipal governments together. First Nations are peaceful people, but now is the time to act. Respect to our flourishing history that has been vital to all First Nations across BC and Canada. Partnerships and relationships create focus on common goals, economics and diversity. The governing rights of First Nations are recognized by the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Rights, and these rights are what brings me here today. Self-determination and the economic wealth of the local governments has not been kind to First Nations, nor shared. Our elders sit on their porches over the past years and speak as they see logging trucks going up the road. There goes another load off of our territory. Our natural resources have been leaving our territory for the past 150 years. Impacts to First Nations gathering of medicines, food, and supplies are diminishing. I believe we need change to happen. Our history has remained through our elders, through their stories, and oral history and the language. It's this history that we must bring to this table. To begin working for a common goal, it begins with our history that we have made here, and we can begin today. I'm sure you all may be aware, 45% of the people that live in Williams Lake and the surrounding area moved here within the past 15 to 20 years. Of them, the 99% don't have a clue that there are 15 First Nations bands around the surrounding area. They ask me, so where is Esket'emc located? Oh, it's out on Dog Creek Road, about 50 kilometers. First thing out of their mouths are, oh, beside Alkali Lake Ranch. Alkali Lake Ranch, Gang Ranch, Douglas Lake Ranch, all ranching communities around First Nations reserves, but still no history. It's not so much that this is where we come from as First Nations people. We belong here. My daughter moved to Toronto. She wants to come back. She feels that she doesn't fit in over there. We belong to the land. We were given it, and we were given that honor to look after it by the Creator. So, over the years, the past 150 years, First Nations have survived chaos. They've survived depression, genocide, treason. They've survived World War I, World War II, the Korean conflict. Every war that is thinkable and mentioned in your history books, First Nations have fought in. In World War II, my grandfather joined the Canadian Armed Forces with the promise of 10 acres. The war was over. The federal government said, you're First Nations. You live on reserve, you don't get the 10 acres. There's so much injustice out there. Another example would be in 1969 was the first day that First Nations were able to vote for the federal government. We were recognized as voting public. And until last year, if you were First Nations lady and you married a non-First Nations, you lost your status, and so did your children. This has finally changed last year. There's so much injustice out there, it's plain to see why First Nations have trouble when it comes to trusting governments, federal and provincial. So I stand here today in front of a municipal government and its council members, and I thank you for giving me the time to speak. It's time that our history be recognized. And to recognize that, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is trying to do that. They put forward a proposal that we can apply for. And I say we, as united, as building relationships. Because the residential school request for proposals, as chief, I've contacted First Nations in the local area, the Carrier, the Chilcotin, the Shuswap, the Southern Shuswap, and discussed this vital project. I don't know how many here were around 20 years ago, but St. Joseph's Mission was burnt to the ground. And in that school, there were sexual assault, physical assault, discrimination, and racism to the First Nations. It's understandable why it was burnt down. But I stand here today because we need to recognize that fact. We need to start working together. And the only way we can do that is to start believing that we can leave that residential school mentality behind. To this day, I talk with non-First Nations who want to learn more. Today, I can never own my home. Today. What will I leave for my kids, my grandkids? I get this a lot. Well, we're paying for your education. We're paying for this. We're paying for that with our tax dollars. Enough's enough. Come live on our side of the street for a change. Let you understand that you're going to pay rent for the rest of your life. Your children are going to pay rent for the rest of their lives for a house that you're going to never own. And it's just like purchasing a car. That's the only car you're ever going to own. You're always going to keep fixing it. There's always going to be a cost to it. But by the end of the day, INAC and DA, they don't supply enough money for that. You've probably all seen on the news just over the past month about a First Nations community that needs help with their housing. All First Nations across Canada are like that. There are a fortunate few, like Esket'emc, that are willing to sacrifice own source revenues to build homes for their community members. We would like to work together with this council as leaders to work together for a common goal, to recommend high that the survivors be recognized for their residential school. I come here today with a letter that I haven't sent out yet because it has the mayor and working with council. And I'm ready to move this forward. And I really want the council and the mayor to be part of this, because I think it would go a long way with building relationships with the local First Nations governments. So I'll pass this, starting with here. The oral history that we have, a lot of it is recorded through the treaty process. I don't know how much time I have there, Madam Chair.
You've got a few more minutes.
A few more minutes, okay. But there is a lot of information out there about First Nations. As I was talking with my colleague here just before I was called up, that there is so much history out there that First Nations have that hasn't been recognized. You know, we go to specific claims for a reason. And specific claims is land that was taken from the First Nations people. I don't mean to put us in the line of fire here, or myself in the line of fire. If I offend anyone here with these words, I apologize. But Gang Ranch was a major settlement for Esket'emc. And the Indian agents and the federal employees and the RCMP came out and hauled us away from there. Shortly after, the Indian agent turned around and sold that. That was federal land at one point. You know, that's what brings us to the table when we talk specific claims. And those are some of the issues that First Nations have to deal with. You know, and I think a lot of people need to understand that we are a strong people. We are a proud people. But when is it going to change for us? Enough's enough. I have another document here. It's 74 pages, so it cost me a tree. But you can go on the website and take a look at it. I'd just like to read the final paragraph, and I'm quoting Stephen Harper here. This is the last paragraph of his apology to the survivors of the residential school. This commission presents a unique opportunity to educate all Canadians on the Indian residential school systems. It will be a positive step in forging a new relationship between Aboriginal peoples and other Canadians, a relationship based on the knowledge of our shared history, a respect for each other, and a desire to move forward, together with a renewed understanding that strong families, strong communities, and vibrant cultures and traditions will contribute to a stronger Canada for all of us. God bless all of you. God bless our land. That was the last paragraph of Harper's apology. And I'd like to close by saying, I too am a residential school survivor. My number was 85. No name, just a number. As for the priest, for the first 3 years I was there, I was 85. I was there till it closed in 1982. And I look forward to working with this group. Thank you, Madam Chair, Council members. Thank you for your time. I look forward to working with you in the future. Gukscham.